Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer. Man, every time this man comes out there with any type of interview, it gets the entire industry covering it. Phil Spencer goes out there. He even says something small. Everyone's covering it. And today we got another Phil Spencer interview. The interview today is done by Danny and Paris. They over there on their 20th anniversary of Gamertag Radio. And we go cover it because there is one specific part of this interview that I want to talk about. What's going on, you guys? Gaming out here coming to another video. Today we'll be talking about the future of Xbox hardware. We got Phil Spencer to, kind of give his opinion on the matter in terms of what his priorities are at Xbox and what he feels is going to go towards. I want to really go over this with a fine-tooth comb. Got about 26 minutes of coverage, 26 minutes of content in terms of the Phil Spencer interview in general. I will have it in the description below. I'm only going to play you guys about 30 seconds of it, maybe a minute and a half, depending if I feel like talking about more of the overall answer that he gave Paris. And shout out to them. They did a great interview. They asked him a lot of good questions. But this one particular question that Paris asked, I want to really go over, and it's the future of the Xbox hardware and, where Phil kind of sees hardware going in general and, what Xbox's hardware means to Microsoft. So we're going to go jump over here. We're going to listen to this. I don't know if I'm going to listen to the entire minute and a half because that's how long they talk about it. Because I want to give my opinion on it. I'm always real with you guys. I'm always real. It's like my shirt. I eat, I sleep, I watch anime, and I play games, and I repeat. And this is the content part. This should be a YouTube part in here, but it is what it is. Let's jump over here and let's see what this interview got to say, man. I'm going to watch the whole segment, then pause it. I want you guys to hear the entire conversation in terms of this particular subject. Keep in mind, I want Paris and Phil Spencer and Danny to get their whole bars across before I pause it. So let's go ahead and do this.
The program that Microsoft and Xbox is doing. But I have to stick with community, and I have to stick to listening to the community, and I have to ask this because if I don't, people will kill me. So a year ago, I want to talk about this is an Xbox, this new marketing thing that you have, but I want to put it in this context. So a year ago, you had the business update and you talked about the 4 games and putting that out there and learning from it. So obviously you've definitely learned something because we're now seeing things like Indiana Jones going to PlayStation 5. We're seeing,
All right. So yeah, I lied. We're going to talk about this a little bit. First off, shout out to Paris for asking a question like this. Being someone that's worked with, these big people at these companies, a lot of them won't let you ask this. So shout out to Phil for allowing this kind of question to go through because it puts them in a bad position. Phil Spencer is extremely PR trained, so they probably have a lot more leeway in terms of what you can ask Phil because he's most likely going to have the perfect way of answering it that doesn't really give you any definite answers, but also it doesn't tell you anything either. So let's pop and let's finish this. But essentially what Paris is asking here is he's like, look, you had those 4 games. We're kind of curious what your mindset is now because clearly those games have sold what they sold. And we don't want to know what is the future plans now since you have that data from selling those 4 games.
Doom the Dark Ages, obviously day and date on PS5 as examples, right? But you've also talked over the past year or so about more open platforms as an example. Yeah. Obviously, no red lines with some of your portfolio, things like that. And I'm leading that into this is an Xbox. In your interpretation, so it's coming from your words, what does that mean now for Xbox as you head into the future?
All right, so essentially, I'm going to give you guys some context, people that don't know. Phil Spencer said in an interview not too long ago where someone asked him, is there any lines that you won't cross in terms of what Xbox games are going to go over to other platforms? And Phil Spencer said there's no red lines, pretty much saying there's nothing that we're not willing to put over there. That means Halo, Gears, Forza, Fable, everything's going to go over there eventually. Now, when I initially heard this, I was okay, But what does that realistically mean? Does that mean these games are going to go over there X amount of time after the game releases? Or is it going to go over there day and date? Now, we're seeing here recently, we saw Doom first. Now we're seeing the Outer Worlds too. So it does look like some games are going to be multi-plat, some games are going to be exclusive at launch. I think that's one of the biggest reasons people have when it comes to this kind of communication is exactly what does any of this mean? Because it's inconsistent. Is Fable going to be a multi-plat, or is it going to be console exclusive? And people say, well, Addict, they've already announced Fable is an exclusive, but they announced the Outer Worlds 2 was an exclusive, and that was eventually changed into a multi-plat. So there's context on that. I just want you guys to know. So let's continue.
Yeah, I want people to be able to experience the games that we build, the services that we offer on as many devices as we can. Obviously, some of the devices out there, some of the platforms are closed. They don't allow everything that we do to show up on those platforms. The thing that I've learned and continue to learn when I'm listening to creators, not only our own studios, but other teams building games, is every creator out there wants to build a game that can find as many players as they want. And frankly, there aren't many platforms out there that try to build connections to people on so many different screens. It's almost like single platform, single device, single game. And that's kind of the history of our business. And we're really taking an approach of we want people to be able to play Xbox on many different screens. Now, not every experience will be the same. We obviously love the native experience we have on our own platform and our own hardware. And that's something that will continue for us. But we're not going to put walls up around where people can engage with the great games our studios are building, or where they can experience Xbox through different forms, whether it's cloud, whether it's on PC, whether it's on handheld PCs, whether it's on phones. I want everybody to be able to play on Xbox. And it does mean more of our games shipping on more platforms, not just PlayStation. We love the work that we do with Nintendo. We love what we do with Valve on Steam. And that's going to continue. We'll just continue to do more of it because what we learn is put the games first. Make sure the games can be as great as they can. We love the experience on our own hardware, our own platform, but our games will show up in more and more places, no doubt.
If I could follow up really quick before we go to you, Danny.
So essentially what he's saying, look, I personally, as in Phil, believes that games need to be in front and center. And I agree. Publishers could say that very easily. As far as like console manufacturers, they have a product to sell as well. And I'm very curious if there's no exclusives to sell that platform, are people still going to go towards that? And I think that's the biggest thing here. It's because this is all fun and this all sounds good on paper, but is it going to actually make sense in the long run? They're wanting to go to as many people as possible. PlayStation, Nintendo, mobile market. They want to sell their game and have Game Pass on Xbox for as long as they possibly can, because in their mind, that's going to make more money in the long run, which it is. You open up your ecosystem to more people, it's going to make money, maybe short term. I don't know about long term, but let's continue.
So along those lines, because again, one of the concerns that I hear in the community is about your own hardware and the future of that. Now, I know Sarah Bond has stated, yes, we will continue to have Xbox hardware in the future, technical leap, things like that. You've obviously talked about the handheld that is still some years away, so eventually you're going to do something like that. But there is concern in the community about, well, you're putting all these games on these other platforms. Why would I still want an Xbox? What is going to be the reason for me to want Xbox hardware when I can get that experience on another platform?
Yeah, I want people to pick hardware based on the capabilities of that hardware and how that fits into the choices they want to make about where they want to play. And we want our hardware to win based on the hardware capabilities that we have. I think the difference that we've seen in the last 20 years, and I think this is good because I come from building games, it's really game first, not platform first. Most of the games you and I will talk about run across so many different platforms. And those are the games that are having success. Those are the games that are at the top of the charts when you look at the most played, most successful games. And I want to build a platform that services those creators that are trying to meet people on every screen. But let's say, like our own hardware, I think it's fundamental to what Xbox is. It's not lost on me. I've said over and over that boxed is in the name of our brand. I'll say is in the position I'm in, I look at hardware as a critical part of what we do. but not trying to gatekeep the games off of other places for the benefit of it. Let's go build innovative hardware that people want to use to play, whether that's in their hands, whether it's on their television, or even other places. And I love our hardware team, and spent some time with them just this week and the roadmap that they have. And
So essentially what he's saying, he's like, look, I want this to be about the games. I want to keep the hardware as an extension of the games. And that's fine. But here's the thing. I hope this works the way they think, because it should go off what the features of your hardware is. How strong is your hardware? What type of, innovations does your hardware have? Can you like dock it like a Switch? Can you play stuff on the go? There's a lot of stuff that would drive people to hardware. But at the same time, I don't believe in corporations. I personally feel like if the hardware starts costing them too much money, they're not going to care about this offsetting thing. Oh, you guys make all this money on PlayStation. Corporations are going to do what corporations do best. Okay, that's cute, but this is costing us money. I need to get rid of this because we don't even sell a lot of those consoles anyway. We sell 7-8 times more on this platform. Like right now, I think it's okay because the Xbox Series S and X have enough out there to justify keeping it around. But what happens next generation when, they don't sell that much? I just saw, and I don't know if it's true, but like they just sold a little over 1 million, or a little under 1 million Xbox Series S and X's for December in 2024. Like, arguably one of the most critical months that you could be selling platforms. And the Switch and PlayStation, I think, sold like it was like 2 million or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to go look it up. But it's just like, if those numbers are correct, which from what we keep hearing, I don't know if they're correct, but it does seem like that's the trend. If next generation comes around and they only sell 3 million a year, which, I'm just throwing that number out there, but I'm saying that if you take the incentives out and they don't go out and buy that, you have to do some serious innovation on the hardware side. And I do personally believe from a hardcore gamer, when I look at a console, I look at where my friends are, which is less and less about that these days because of cross-progression and cross-generation stuff. I look, what's the cost of the consoles? I look what controller they're using, and I look what games they have. And to me, the majority of those, most people don't care about. It's the games. You look at some of the most well-done consoles, and he said, the most popular games are everywhere. Yeah, because they're free to play. The majority of the games that are being played on every platform that's in those top played games on every platform are all free to play. And they can't be used as an argument into what is popular and what's not popular, because those games are, for the most part, they're the exception to the rule. There are a couple games that just beat everyone at their own game. And it's one of the reasons why hardware and consoles have been so devastating, because all of those games are played on last gen. You got Call of Duty, Battle Royale on last gen. You got Fortnite on last gen. Minecraft on last gen. All these games are on last gen. You don't need new generation hardware for it. It used to be you had to upgrade eventually to play the newer games on the newer hardware. But now, because these games are so optimized and they're not really interested in expanding to a new, a smaller audience such as next gen hardware, people will either go to PC or they'll just stay on last gen. Now, obviously, there's going to be people to upgrade, and that takes captivating software. And I do think both consoles have had captivating software to a degree through this whole generation. But the problem is in my personal opinion, next generation, if you just have a bunch of launch titles that's on the PlayStation 5 too, why upgrade? And I don't understand like the logic. Like, I get it. This has never been done. And I'm not going to sit there and say Phil Spencer's ideology is wrong, because I don't even know. But in my mind, how do you sell hardware with no reason to buy the hardware? And then in my mind, when it comes down to it, is it going to get to the point where these companies are like, look, the Xbox is only selling X amount and the PlayStation is selling 8-9 times the amount? And then if Xbox stops proactively reaching out to these companies and getting these companies to support the games, then we start losing Japanese support. Now, am I saying the worst case scenario? Yes, but that is a possibility with less hardware being sold that more companies are going to start looking at the Xbox as something that isn't really mandatory and necessary to be successful as a game. Now, maybe that's not right now because there is a good amount of Xboxes out. Right, like 30 million, 30 plus. We know it's probably closer to 40 to 50. But, with that amount, these publishers are looking at that and say that's a lot of people we could potentially sell to. But next gen, when the next gen games only come out, I'm worried what's going to happen then. And like I said, I don't trust corporations to not do corporate things. I hope that this works out good on paper, and I do. I generally do, because I really don't care whether or not other people get the games that Xbox has. I care whether or not that business practice and that policy is going to lead to them eventually cutting the Xbox hardware out, not the ecosystem, because they're still going to become a third-party publisher, full-blown third-party publisher. I'm worried eventually it'll get to the point where the Xbox hardware isn't making as much money by any means of the stretch of the imagination that the other hardware is going. That's the reason PlayStation doesn't put their stuff day and date for the most part when it comes to PC. Now, maybe they're thinking about it more and more because of this games as a service thing that kind of bombed their company a little bit. But they see getting the X amount of people that are going to invest into a PlayStation 5, getting them in the ecosystem where they're buying subscription services, where they're buying stuff off the digital marketplace, such as movies, games, TV shows, where they're buying games in general because they get 30% of all of that. Buying microtransactions. When you get more and more people into the hardware, long term, you make more money because they're spending more money than it costs you to make that hardware. That's always been the business model to Xbox, and I'm very curious on how you keep a hardware around when people aren't buying it because there's no reason to buy it, and they're buying your competition because your games are going over there anyway. Might work out. I might be not seeing something. Maybe there's some key components somewhere that I don't know about. Phil Spencer says that innovation is going to be the key, and I hope that's so. I hope that they're able to push a mobile market on top of pushing a console market. But I'll end this with this. Even though how successful the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally are, none of them touch the success the Switch has. And why? Because of the exclusives on the Nintendo Switch. Appreciate all the support you guys are giving me. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. It's always appreciated. Like I said, I'm just a passionate Xbox gamer that just makes videos. I don't know anything about running $1 trillion company. I don't even know anything about running a hardware company. I'm just someone that's been making content for a long time, that's been analyzing the industry for a long time, and I just have more questions than I have them answered. And that's okay at the end of the day. No one knows how this is going to end, and only time will tell how it ends. I hope it ends the way Phil Spencer is, hypothetically lies ending, because in my opinion, as long as the hardware is continued to be around, I don't care about anything else. You guys have a good day. Peace. Man, it's 18 minutes. Follow me on Twitter, Lord Addict ILP.